Hello again. I wanted to do one last video on the Bob Beck and hopefully clear up any questions that might come down the road because I didn't show something thoroughly enough. I'm going to mount the new unit on my arm as suggested in the PDF that's also a part of this website. Hopefully you're going to download the PDF, Bob Beck's PDF. Has a lot of good information. I've already did a video presenting most of this, but now we're going to do those last little details, show those last little details. So there's a couple of things you can do. One is just the basic mounting. I made a strap on from a used elastic band from Fruit of the Loom. You can make a strap or use Velcro, whatever you want, and simply slipping this on the arm. And it'd be nice to have multiple hands, but I don't, so this looks a little funny. Okay, so there it is. It's mounted on my arm, and I've already pre-wrapped the electrodes. I'll explain a little bit about the electrodes, something I had not done before, and I'll do that in this video. I pre-wrapped them with some cotton cloth. You can use almost anything, paper towel, cotton cloth, or something equivalent. And I made up a solution here of salt water, just a pinch of salt in a bottle. This is an eyedropper bottle. And I definitely used sea salt. I did not use iodine salt. I think Bob Beck's video emphasizes do not use iodine salt. I never talked about electrophoresis and how your cells will open up and absorb things that you really don't want to do when you're doing this process. Again, watch the Bob Beck videos that are also included in this website. The links to therefore. So getting back on track here, so I'm going to put a little, I'm going to saturate the cotton paper here. And the reason why we wrap it up in cotton paper versus just letting the electrodes touch directly is that they will burn. You do not want the metal, the direct metal, attached directly to your skin. I'm using rubber bands. You can use, again, anything that's elastic that'll work for you. These are just cheap rubber bands. You buy a bag of them for a couple of bucks. And you can see how I have them arranged. Hopefully, you're getting a good view. And I'm going to stick the electrodes underneath that have been dampened. I'll do one at a time. Underneath the elastics. Let's stick the other one in. Okay, so the key is to cover the ulnar artery and the radial artery. When I say cover, I actually meant to say place the electrodes over those two arteries. And hopefully you're getting an idea approximately where they are, and approximate works just fine. It does not have to be exact. And I'm going to, I don't think the paper is wet enough, or the cotton cloth is wet enough. I'm going to put a couple more drops in there. All right. So here we go. Soak up any extra water. Alright, you simply at this point in time plug it in. I'm just plugging it in. Would be nice to have an extra hand here. Alright, it's plugged in. I normally wrap this around my arm a few times. I'm just putting it out of the way for now. It's a 2-foot cord. In fact, I am going to wrap it around. Generally do something like this. Okay, it's plugged in. And I turn the current all the way down, which is turning it counterclockwise, and I turn the unit on, little switch which I've demonstrated before, and I look and there it is flashing, And can I feel anything? No, I can't feel a thing, and that's good. You don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to feel anything of any serious consequence. So I'm turning it up a little bit until I can feel a little bit of pulsing, and I can feel it now. And relative to where this knob goes, I'm going to turn it all the way down. I'm going to turn it all the way up. I was about 3/4 away, all the way up. What's interesting is that you become more sensitive to it, and I'll be turning this down over time. I'll be tapping it slightly down because I'll feel it really pulsing harder and harder and harder. I'm not quite sure whether the skin just gets a little more conductive in that area after the salt water and the moisture of the electrodes sitting on your skin directly just make a better contact, the resistance lowers, or exactly what's going on. It could be a lot of things. But I do know that I eventually will be turning this down. I will never turn it completely down. The current is just too weak. I don't feel anything. And what I want to do is just barely feel it. And then ignore it. That's it. And if you read the PDFs and if you watch the video, you'll get a good sense of what's cooking and how this whole thing works. This is the Bob Beck device. This will be the final video on this. I have other videos to do, like on the power supply and everything, to give you a lot of insight and more detail on that. And you'll be able to just look at that on the website. Okay, I said I was going to talk a little bit about the probes that I'm using. I'm going to take a picture. I'm not going to take it off here. I'm just going to show some pictures. I'll unwrap these, and you'll see that they're two stainless steel poles. They're about 1.5 inches long, and I bought the stainless steel. It's 3/16 gauge, I believe. I bought the stainless steel as carter pin down at my Ace Hardware store, and I just cut the straight section of the carter pin. It wasn't a spread apart type carter pin. It was a loop type with a straight edge. At any rate, I cut the straight section off. These are probably, I didn't actually measure them, but I think they're a little, they're real close to 1/8 inch in diameter. And I wanted stainless steel because I didn't want it to rust or whatever. And then I took some ribbon wire. This wire that I'm holding in my hand was ribbon cable that was part of a ribbon cable. I think it was like 24 conductors thick or wide. And I just cut down 2 strands of it. I used a razor blade, was very careful. Cut a length about out of that. I have this stuff in a spool. And I used this ribbon wire because it's flexible, small, and it's stranded. I wanted a stranded wire. And I stripped off the edge and I wrapped it around the stainless steel poles that I'm using. And stainless steel does not solder well, so I didn't solder. I used heat shrink. Once I had a lot of wraps, then that's what the black is. I used heat shrink, and I compressing after the heat shrink was shrunk, obviously, the wire against the pole. And then I put another layer of heat shrink on, and I did that twice. So, and that seemed to make a beautiful contact. It makes the wire and the pole sort of like the stainless steel pole sort of one, does a great job. It helps keep out the water if you do a good job at heat shrinking. And voila, I made myself a couple of electrodes on one end of the wire. And the other end, obviously, is nothing more than a phono jack. And I actually am now using just a mono phono jack. I was using a stereo phono jack originally. I find the mono actually slips in better because I'm now installing a mono plug here, female end. Okay, we're in, and I can feel it. So it's pretty much where it was before. So look at the pictures also of the electrodes inside. They'll give you a little clearer view. There is a picture of the voltage converter. That's the circuit board that you cannot see very well when I just take off the case. And the voltage converter takes the 8.4, I said 9 before, but it's actually 8.4 volts from the lithium-ion battery, excuse me. And it will raise it up to whatever I adjust, up to about 38, 40 volts. And I've been adjusting it to 29 volts. And then of course the differential amplifier, as I explained in one of the other videos, will create a 55 volt, roughly, approximately, peak-to-peak non-polarized pulse at 4 hertz. I think somewhere I had accidentally said 4 kilohertz. Forget kilohertz, I meant to say 4 hertz. So if you hear 4 kilohertz and I'm talking about a Bob Beck, that was an accident. All right, with all that, I am going to start my videos for the next project, and everybody have a fine day.